Okay, so welcome, Sally. Thanks for joining again. Had a little check-in. So shall we just dive straight into the mind training material? So let's have a look at today's quote. Share my screen. There we go. So if you want to read the quote.
Of all powers, love is the most powerful and the most powerless. It is the most powerful because it alone can conquer that final and most impregnable stronghold, which is the human heart. It is the most powerless because it can do nothing except by consent.
Well, that was a very true quote. So this is why there's seemingly a paradox. People say love is all powerful, and yet, well, there's all this pain and suffering and sickness and death in the world. So how can love then be all powerful? This is what a lot of people struggle with. How could a loving God do this? And it's because it's by our own choice, right? Your mind has the power to choose what it believes, its reality, and if it chooses against love, then love can't help it. It's up to you to allow this power into your heart and allow it to transform your thoughts, your words, your actions, your perceptions. If you don't allow that, then it's as though it wasn't there. And you want to read the little teaching, a little bit I wrote.
In today's quote, Frederick Buechner, an American writer, preacher, and theologian, points to the paradoxical nature of the power of love, which are often seemingly powerless in the face of the overwhelming problems of our individual lives and the world, and the reason for this seeming paradox. The reason is that we have what's been called free will, which is the power of choice. We must choose to allow the power of love to transform our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, all of which combine to constitute our experience of life.
Any thoughts on that so far?
I was watching the film you recommended,
Shawshank
Redemption, last night, and even amongst all that violence and arguing and stuff, there was still love between certain people there. I thought that was really lovely.
Yeah, there was a beautiful story of love. There was friendship. There was a genuine love between Morgan Freeman and sorry, it wasn't Tom Hanks. It was Tim Robbins, which is interesting because I was going to do his other one, which was The Green Mile, but I changed it, and then I had Tom Hanks on the brain on my mind, so even though I looked at the teaser thing image at the format, which said Tim Robbins, I saw Tom Hanks. It's so interesting how the perception. I was like, how did I miss that? Because in my mind, I'd already pre-decided that it was Tom Hanks. He doesn't look that dissimilar, and so I was like, okay, no, this is Tom. And I kind of convinced myself that it was. And then someone said, I didn't see Tom Hanks. I'm like, really? He was the lead character. How did you miss that? And then I was like, oh, actually, hang on, let's go look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, it was Tim Robbins. Oh, okay. But it's just interesting how perception works, isn't it?
It was interesting because I thought, oh, Tom Hanks, I'll watch that.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't in it.
It wasn't. I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. Anyway, it got you to watch it. So.
Yeah, it was very good about his persistence.
Had you seen it before?
I think I might have seen it looking at it from a different way, and this time I really watched it. And yeah, his persistence to get out of the place and his mind training was incredible. Yeah, it was a good film.
Hero's journey. I mean, what an amazing.
Totally. And what struck me strongly, which is probably obvious, but in the beginning, he wasn't happy in his life. Then he had his 20 years in prison. And then the freedom he felt afterwards, he was just so, it just struck me that you have to go through that journey, don't you? You have to come out the other side to appreciate what you've got in the first place. And yeah, it was very interesting. I just really felt for him at the end of it when he got out, and his incredible strength of mind to be able to hold it all together through all those challenges and not lose the holding on to life, really. But it was also
the line that stuck with me: "Get busy living or get busy dying." It was such a great line. It's one of the greatest movie lines ever. Get busy living or get busy dying, because that's the choice between life and death. You know, life is eternal, but you can choose against it, in which case you're choosing death. And you know, that is ultimately the choice we all have. And you saw that, you know, quite clearly in the movie. So the lead character, Andy Dufresne, makes the choice for life, and everyone else is most of the others are making the choice for death. Warden, you know, you see he's continuously making the wrong choices. Eventually it leads to suicide. The prison guard, it's all about violence, and you know, you see that. And Morgan Freeman was kind of on the edge. He was like, well, I'm not quite sure, you know, because all of the depression of prison, you know, he had that cynical side to him. But something in him was inspired enough by the example of Andy Dufresne to go, okay, there's something here for me. Because get busy living or get busy dying, that struck a chord. So it was also like, yes, you can help others, and you know, his whole thing with the prison library, and it's like, okay, you know, while he was there, the beauty of that story for me was, while he was there, he was present, right? He didn't just go, oh, this is terrible and I don't want to participate. He actually engaged really fully. He was trying to add value. He was trying to be truly helpful. You know, he tried to help you know, build the library. He helped the prison guards. You know, there was like, I'm not resentful to these people, even though they treat us awfully. I'll help them do their tax returns. He was helpful to that boy. The young guy came in. He was like, okay, well, I'm gonna help him to, you know, to get his whatever he was, his high school diploma or whatever it was he was studying for. And he really tried to be truly helpful, at the same time as he always had his escape plan going on. And so what a great, you know, learning for us. It's like, okay, yes, you can be here, you can be present, you can be truly helpful. It's all good, and you know, you should be, but this is not your home. You always have, no, this isn't my home. This isn't what I'm meant to do. So temporarily, I will make the most of it. But I've always got this escape plan going on. And he knew one day that he would escape. And everything that he did was designed towards that end. So, you know, not only did he add value to people, because he added value, that allowed him to get into a position where the warden trusted him. And then he could set up his new life, and he created a new identity. In the days when probably it was easier to do that, and he could then just transition into that, and he had a whole lot of money in his account, like basically had set himself up in a new life. So you know, from a spiritual point of view for us, I think, you know, on the hero's journey, so yeah, just, you know, be present and be fully engaged. Yeah, all good, but at the same time, you know that this isn't your home, and that there's an escape plan, and by doing that, there's no contradiction, because by being fully present and adding value and learning your lessons, that's how you can escape. And you saw how that all came beautifully together. If he hadn't done everything he did to add value, and he wouldn't have been able to escape ultimately. That gave him the opportunity to do that. And the reason they didn't search his cell and they didn't like rip down the poster was because the warden wanted something from him. He says, okay, well, we'll let that slide because you could be useful to me. So really, yeah, just a great script, great story, which, you know, is a hero's journey, and there's a whole lot of lessons to be learned if you're on the spiritual path from that movie. And the persistence, also the thing that struck me was his persistence in the face of obstacles. It was just like, okay, this guy just won't quit. He's just going to keep. And then I love that when he was writing the letters to them, and then they said, look, go away. Here's $250. Go away and stop borrowing. He said, okay, well, I'll just redouble my efforts. I'll write 2 letters. So yeah, again, there's a lot of learning. We just keep at it, just keep persisting, because in the end, that will triumph. And he showed how the power of love in that situation where it seemed like the ego was in charge and that there was no hope, how it actually overcome. It helps him overcome that egoic system, break free, and ultimately justice was done. The warden and the prison guard, they got what was coming to them. The karma came around in a big way, and he was an instrument of that. So
it struck me about the prison of your mind. A lot of them were perpetuating belief systems and violent belief systems, and then couldn't get themselves out of prison. And when they did get out of prison, they wanted to shoot themselves and go back in, or shoot somebody or cut somebody's throat and go back in, because they didn't want to be free.
I mean, what a great, because you become institutionalized. And so, that institution becomes what, although it's a prison, it becomes what you rely on for your life. Well, metaphorically, that's kind of what society is. You don't have as many restrictions. You can kind of move about freely if you're not imprisoned behind bars, but you're still imprisoned by the construct of that society, by the beliefs and the laws and so most people live their lives in a very narrow prison, and it's a mental prison. They're institutionalized. They're so enslaved to the matrix that to think outside of it and say, actually, I could be completely free of all this is not an option. And yet, that is actually what we've been called to do. And say, no, I can let it all go. I can, in the movie, he went out of the United States. He went, and to a place where there wasn't many people, on a beach, and was like, okay, symbolically, you don't have to be part of the social construct. You don't have to, engage in that. You can do your own thing on your own terms, and be free on your mind. And Morgan Freeman had to make that. That was his journey. It was like, okay, I have to get out of the imprisonment in my mind. I've been there 40 years, but I don't have to, I don't have to believe in the story. I can actually make another choice, and I can choose freedom rather than bondage. And he did. And so it was a lovely ending. It was like these two, friends reunited. There was a love that it, carried both of them through for 20 years. And then they reunited in freedom, which is ultimately, what we're all going to be. And the hero's journey, we all end up in the same place, on the same, in the same home, going, welcome home, friend. And we took the journey together. So really, I mean, it's a wonderful mind-watching, mind-training movie. That's why I chose it. But watching it again, I was like, oh, okay. Even though I'd seen it twice, I think, or something before, it was like, just watch it again. Well, actually, I just listened to the dialogue, honestly, while I'm working. I don't have time to watch it, but I listen to the dialogue while I'm working away, because it's actually all in the dialogue. You get, and I remember, what the scenes were. So it's just some really, really good messages. I'm glad it.
Yeah, I'm glad you recommended it, because I really wouldn't have watched it otherwise. Yeah.
No, it's I mean, I think it's a brilliant movie, but it's quite old, and a lot of people don't necessarily know about it. And then the spiritual interpretation of it. You see, and these great movies like that, they have the hero's journey, and they have the deep spiritual message in them. That's what makes them great movies. There's a depth to them. It means you could watch them a number of times because of the depth of that message. Whereas something with less depth, okay, maybe once or twice. You think of some of these violent action movies and stuff. It's all just okay, maybe once, frivolous entertainment, but there's no deeper message. No, often it's just the hero, the hero triumphs over evil, but there's no deeper hero's journey. That's really what characterizes a great movie, is that there's a hero's journey going on that that involves that character's personal development. They have to really stretch themselves and grow, and then you kind of empathize with them. You go, wow, like you think of what he went through. It's like, whew, Like that's, to maintain the connection with your source through all of that. You're getting beaten up. I mean, he was raped, it's like dreadful. And yet there's a core of him, as he said, is unmoved. He said, there's a part of you that they cannot touch.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah.
And that was symbolized when he played the music. That was lovely. It was like, play the music because it's just showing them they cannot actually break my spirit. Even though you had to go and do the solitary confinement. It was like, I'll do it just because I'm showing them they cannot break my spirit. Even in this place, beauty is still possible. It's not all, horrible.
And yeah, he was inspired to do it, wasn't he? It wasn't a thought. You could see he was inspired.
Just like, I'm going to do this, and to hell with the consequences. I'm not thinking about, oh, they're going to put me in the hold, and just like in the moment, this feels right. And that's how he made his decisions. If you think about that, and then he was inspired. On the roof, he heard the guard talking about his problems. And most people would have gone, oh my God, this guy could just turn around and beat me up and give me solitary confinement. It's too risky. So the fear would have kept. But he actually says something. The guy's about to deck him, and he's got to like, okay, well, very quickly, I've got to try and convince you under extreme pressure that actually I can help you. He did, and that's what started it. If he hadn't had the courage to do that, his whole journey, all of everything that then unfolded wouldn't have happened, would it? Because of that, he was then starting to be able to do the tax returns, and that was why the warden then said, okay, well, you've got financial skills, so his whole journey wouldn't have unfolded if he hadn't had that one moment of courage to say, okay, I'll actually say something that's seemingly highly risky, potentially could be if not life-threatening, could seriously cause me a lot of physical pain because this guy could beat me up. But he was willing to take the risk and transcend his fear. And that's then, from that seed, his whole journey unfolded. And so then his life took an upward trajectory because he was willing to overcome his fear in that moment. Whereas everyone else, there was no one else in the prison who would have done that. They were all too scared of saying anything because of the threat of physical intimidation. So he overcame to a large extent the fear of physical pain, I think, in his mind. He's like, okay, it doesn't matter. I'll go through the physical stuff because it's about the freedom of the mind. And he understood that. And that's a good lesson for all of us, because that's often what keeps us enslaved. Oh, physically I could suffer, I could suffer pain, or I won't have my creature comforts, or money, financial worries, all related to, I might not have the kind of comforts and luxuries I'm used to. So, I'd rather not go down that road because I value these things. And spiritual teachers and masters have always gone, no, I don't value that. I value the truth above that. And maybe that means I've got to live a life that's not as comfortable, physically, materially, but it's a small price to pay for, the deeper connection that you get when you connect with spirit. It's like, well, the material comforts just pale into insignificance compared with that source, that presence. Okay, so anything else to share on the movie? I think we did a nice little summary of that.
No, that was good.
So where are we? We block the power of love.
If we block the power of love by choosing against it, it seems not to be there and therefore to be unable to help us. But this is only the consequence of our own denial of love, and not because it has denied or rejected us, which is, of course, the ego's interpretation of the predicament. Yeah, I thought that was really good this morning. Who in their right mind? Oh, go on.
What we've done is we've projected our denial onto God. We said we've been rejected, but in fact we've done the rejecting, and then we create a false image of God, a concept in our minds that is judgmental, harsh, condemnatory, that's rejected us. But that's a miscreation of our minds. It's in fact our own projection of our denial onto this false image of God. And that's a really important point to realize. And most traditional versions of God, religious versions, they do this by default. It's a projection of our own feeling of abandonment. Now God has rejected us. So you think of the story of Adam and Eve, classic. Oh, now we've done something wrong. God's rejected us. We cast out of the Garden of Eden, and we must suffer for our sins. And he's punished us. When in fact, it was just our own choice. There's no great God out there punishing you, just your own choice to remain separated. And you can choose to awaken. I mean, Yeshua says, he says, well, it's interesting because in the Bible, there's reference to Adam falling asleep when he was put to sleep and a rib was taken and Eve was created. But there's no reference ever to his waking up. So actually, post Adam, the entire Bible is like he's in a dream. Everything comes from there is happening in a dream. That's what he's implying. It's a different interpretation of that story. But this is what we've done, and it's to recognize that it's not anything out there has rejected you. You've done the rejecting, so you can change it. You don't have to ask for any God to give you mercy. You just have to change your own mind and accept that loving awareness back into your mind and stop projecting it, which is the whole point. This is what we're doing. Forgiveness is the willingness and the ability to stop rejecting love and to accept it back into your own mind. Okay, so who in their right mind?
Who in their right mind would deny love? You may be wondering to yourself. The answer is no one in their right mind, which is part of our minds that is being guided by the Holy Spirit or remembrance of perfect love. Only the wrong part of our minds, which is the ego or belief in separation, could deny the beneficent power of love and then believe that it has been rejected by and is unworthy of love. Realizing that you are solely responsible for this denial and simultaneously letting go of the temptation to blame God or anyone else for the unfortunate consequences of your own denial is the first step in spiritual awakening. Yeah, quite true.
Any thoughts on that?
Just right.
And so this is what we mean by taking total responsibility. A lot of people mistake that or take total responsibility. So I'm responsible for all of the errors and all of the sins in the world, and it seems to be overwhelming. But I am responsible for the denial that's led to all of these things. And while I may not be able to do much about the consequences for other people, what I can do is I can change my own mind. I can stop denying it, which is the cause of the problem. And I do that by letting go of the temptation to blame God or anyone else for the consequences of my denial. It's not anyone else's fault. It's my doing. I'm responsible because I chose to deny God. Okay, well, if I can accept that, then I can accept the one remedy, which is that I need to let go of that denial. And that denial is subtle. We don't think we're denying it, but we are. So whenever you judge someone or something, whenever you condemn, whenever you get angry, whenever you're fearful, whenever there's any kind of contraction in your being, then you're denying it. You must say, well, I'm not denying God, but you are. In that moment, you're denying the pure formless awareness of perfect love because that's not in your awareness anymore. And there's this contracted experience going on instead. So it's subtle. You need to really watch your mind. Go, okay, how am I denying God again? Because if it was obvious, it was too obvious, it would be easy. But it's in the subtle thoughts and emotions we feel all the time that we deny God. And so you have to really start looking at all of those and saying, okay, if it's anything that's not just open, expansive awareness, anything other than that is a denial of God. I recognize what I'm doing, and I must let go of that denial, the covering over pure formless awareness, in order to heal my mind and stop denying it and free myself to this awareness, fundamental awareness of who I really am. So yeah, very important point, and that's essentially what we're doing in all of the mind training. Is we're saying I'm responsible. So it's my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions that are the problem. So and I use the mind training to correct any misperceptions that I'm not love. That's that's all we're doing. It's really very simple. And he's just giving us the same lesson in different form every day with different words to kind of keep us engaged. But it's the same lesson. You are that which you denied. So remember it, connect with it, feel it. I like this lesson because it's about feeling it, isn't it? My heart is beating in the peace of God, or the peace of perfect love. It's like he's asking us to really go within and feel in your heart chakra. That's where you feel this. So that's why he's actually using heart. Doesn't use it very much in the course, but he's asking you to go into that feeling rather than thinking in this lesson, and actually feel it in your heart and in your whole body. Because the lesson, he has talks about my breath, my body. So it's like your whole body becomes entrained to this love, and they've done research on this. It's an institution called the Heart Math Institute, and they found that actually this is enormously powerful. If you become heart-centered, this entrains your entire body and your brain to this field. It's like the heart creates a field of energy because it's an energy center, and everything starts to get kind of entrained energetically into that field. And so they're saying, well, actually, this is much more powerful than the brain. Your real intelligence lies here in this energy center. Of course, to neuroscientists and people who believe in the flatland paradigm, scientific materialism, that doesn't make any sense, because the brain is where it's at, and they can see all these things firing, and they go, well, surely consciousness must be there then, because there's all this activity, and so consciousness must be a product of the brain. But it's not. That's just the hardware that's been miscreated by the ego mind, which is just the belief in separation, to give itself an experience of separation. And actually, they have no idea how it really works. That's the interesting thing. You ask a scientist, show me consciousness. Why do we have consciousness? They can't really answer that question, because you can't answer it on the level of their thinking, on the material level. There's no answer to it. You have to go beyond that paradigm. As Einstein said, the significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. So they will not solve the problem of consciousness within the current paradigm of the scientific model of scientific materialism. You won't find the answer there. You have to go beyond that, which will ultimately take you into truth, into the pure mind. If we want to look at the integral model, into something beyond the illusion of a separate self and a separate world. So do you find it helpful when I refer to this?
Every
Am I
time.
overdoing it? Because John was like, well, he said the other day, well, because I asked him, like, why haven't you been joining? And he's like, well, I've heard the integral model a number of times, and I've heard the hero's journey a number of times, and I kind of get it. But I use it as, I'm using it as reference to go, okay, well, just have, remember that, this is the truth. Maybe I'm overdoing it, but like if it's relevant, okay, well, if we only believe in this, the exterior world, then you have to believe that your brain and your body are the source of consciousness, don't you? And if you've excluded the interior world from your model, then you can't really fit consciousness into that, which is why they can't really explain it. Sort of sits outside of their model, and then they go, well, one day we'll find the answer. No, you won't find the answer within your current model, because your model's wrong. You need to change the model. It needs to become more integral, to acknowledge these interior domains and say that, this is not only as real, ultimately in a non-dual teaching, it's saying this is the only reality. Your internal experience is ultimately the only reality. And this is illusion. So you've completely flipped the scientific materialist paradigm and gone, well, you think only this is real. A non-dual teacher or student will say, no, only this is real. So completely at odds. They're not going to agree at all on the interpretation of reality. So you do find it helpful to share these things from time to time.
Well, when it comes up on the screen again, I think, oh no, here we go again. But then quite often I hear something different every time you explain it. So, you know.
It gives a different take on it. It's like, okay, just because the truth is this external, exterior domains, most people believe in these and they actually have denied this. They're not in touch with this, they've denied this. That's the denial of God. We've denied our own true awareness. In fact, at the extreme of the ego's denial, we don't even believe we have a mind. We think we're bodies. It's just kind of an extraordinary belief. But that's the consequence of the egoic belief system. You're a body, and you're defined by the body, and the body's sensory perceptions and the body's pleasures and pains, and ultimately the body's death is what defines you. And don't believe that you have a mind. Just go based on, oh, my body wants this. We have language that does, oh, well, my body needs this. My body wants this. My body's telling me. I mean, this kind of language is really a denial of the mind, isn't it? Giving some kind of mind intelligence to body which doesn't have intelligence. In fact, it's just a proxy. The body's a proxy for the ego mind. So actually there is a mind, but it's now masquerading as a body. And it doesn't want to see itself as a mind, because if you realize that you're a mind, you might go, well, what else is there to the mind? Maybe there's something completely unexplored there that I don't really know about. Maybe it's another aspect of mind, which then opens you up to the spiritual domain. So the ego's best defense is to say you're not a mind, you don't even have a mind, you're a body. And to keep you in that very narrow belief system, so that you never actually go exploring a mind, saying, well, whoa, that's interesting. I actually have a mind. So what's this mind thing about? Let me go and explore it. Because if you do, sooner or later, you're going to hit the ego. You go, oh, actually, there's a belief in my mind that I'm a separate self. And maybe that's not true. So you see, it brings the ego into question. So its best defense is simply to create a belief system that doesn't allow you to question. Okay, so let's have a look. Speaking of the body, we have a look at your favorite.
I'm not avoiding it, but I've just realized
Yeah.
I need to take the dog out because because of the time difference, she's used to going out now.
Okay.
So she's
Okay.
whining to go out for a walk. Can we
Okay.
just do the lesson rather
Yeah, we can, or we could take a break and you come back later. Is that going to be too late for you?
than probably get a bit late by then.
Oh, okay.
I'll do that next
We'll
week.
leave this to tomorrow. The body will say.
Yeah, no, I read it this morning.
Did you read it again?
Yeah.
And did anything else land for you?
It's still, I cleared on something. What did I cleared on? The deep belief that I'm not a body, which is obvious, but no, there wasn't a new insight. There's still some resistance on it, but that's not why I'm resisting it now. I will do it next week.
I know, I understand. Your dog, your dog has needs on the.
Well, she keeps going in and out, and she's roaming around, and I'm thinking, oh, for goodness sake. But yeah, I know why she needs a walk.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's just do the lesson then. So okay, so lesson 267. My heart is beating in the peace of God. Or alternatively, if you want to read the alternative.
My heart is beating in the peace of perfect love. Yeah, it's nice.
Which is just lovely. I love that. Sometimes the translations really work. It's like, oh, that's just got such a nice feeling. It kind of takes you into the energy of it, which is the whole point. some of that peace transmits itself through the words. Peace of perfect love. Okay, so I'm going to read the translated version of paragraph 1 of the lesson.
Surrounding me in all the life that pure formless awareness extends in its perfect love.
Is all the life. Do you want me to make this a bit bigger?
Please.
Zoom in to 130%.
Okay, lovely. Surrounding me is all the life that pure formless awareness extends in its perfect love. It calls to me in every heartbeat, every breath, every action, and every thought. Peace fills my heart and floods my body with the purpose of letting go. Now my mind is healed, and all I need to awaken the world is given me. Each heartbeat brings me peace. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Each heartbeat brings me peace. Each breath infuses me with strength. I am a messenger of perfect love, directed by its voice, sustained by it in love, and held forever quiet and at peace within its loving awareness. Each heartbeat tells me this presence is there, is here, I suppose, and everyone is answered by its voice, assuring me I am home in it. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? Each heartbeat tells me this presence is here.
This is the original. It tells me each heartbeat calls his name. That was the original. Henry is there. Presence is, and that was my translation. Each heartbeat tells me this presence is here, maybe. Better is here. This presence is here. Calls his name, because of this name of God thing. I mean, it really, God doesn't have a name, so it's not really, I don't think he means it like that. It's not you're going to call the name of God, whatever you want to call God. It's actually a call to the presence, to the feeling of it. Heartbeat tells me this presence is here now, maybe, and everyone is answered by its voice, assuring me I'm at home in it. So I like this because he's really saying, well, get your body involved in this and feel it through the body. So each breath, your heart, and everything becomes infused with this loving presence. Well, they've shown, research shows, if you actually do this and you really connect with your heart, it entrains your entire body in ways that are very helpful, very beneficial for your body, for your health and well-being. It creates coherence, heart coherence, but then actually entrains the mind. So your thoughts change. And they're saying there's an energy center and an intelligence here that's enormously powerful, but it's not something that we can understand because there's no brain. See, so all of the biochemical processes that scientists like to study don't exist there, but it's an energy center. So it's taking you beyond the scientific materialist model into a more kind of quantum, something beyond this world. It's unexplainable.
About 15 years ago, I can't really ascertain how long ago it was, I used to run a peace group, and we used to go out and about local areas, the local castle or cafes or in the precinct or in the park, and meditate, kind of just out in the open, with people. So we'd sit in a circle maybe and put our hands on our hearts and focus on our heartbeat. And the peace that we conjured up, it felt like it spread out around the area. And the reasoning I did it was because I always felt that meditation and things were done behind closed doors, that people would privately meditate. They wouldn't publicly meditate. So sitting in a cafe that was very busy, kind of late morning, lunchtime sort of time, and we'd do this. I look back on it, it was quite hilarious, really, with all eyes closed, with our hands on our hearts. Don't know what I was thinking of, really, but people used to accept it, and the restaurant used to go quiet, and they used to say they'd welcome us back to the restaurant because there was less breakages in the kitchen. You know, the waitresses wouldn't take the wrong orders, and the customers were more peaceful and quiet and happier. And so they used to, you know, try and entice us back in. And that's why it's reminded me of this, you know, thing on the heart math stuff. Yeah.
Well, yes, you know what was coming to me while you were saying that. Just like a little download I got. Do you know about Lynn McTaggart's peace experiment?
Yeah.
So why don't we start a peace experiment for the Ukraine war? And get people to say, okay, so for whatever it is, at a certain time every day, you can come in, you can join this, you know, Zoom call and sit. And if you can't join, then just, you know, do it in your own space for 5 minutes a day or something. You know, just spend the time. And if you got, you know, thousands of people doing it, then it's going to shift the energy. And that war, I mean, the success of it with Sri Lanka was quite extraordinary. What happened? The war actually did resolve very quickly. I think they had 10,000 people involved. So you know, this thing's just been dragging on. No one seems to have taken any kind of spiritual approach to it at all. There's no attempt to kind of heal the mind that's actually responsible for it. So maybe it's a call to do something like that.
Yeah, because it's healing the war within us, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ultimately, you know, connecting with a deep field of peace, using the apparent conflict to take you deeper into your spirit, create a field of energy. If everyone's doing it together, it creates a field, and that's how reality changes. That field changes the quantum field, and because you've brought into mind, that particular conflict. It's not just that conflict; any conflict will helpful. But that's kind of the major conflict going on in the world at the moment, as far as I'm aware. And maybe there's others. There's always wars going on, but that's kind of the major one that's taking most of the psychic energy of people, isn't it? It's like, oh, and you know, World War III, there's the threat of nukes and you know, all of that stuff going on. So there's quite a lot of fear around it. So maybe it's a call, you know, and if we want to get this message out, I think maybe the way to do it is in a more public way like that. So okay, well, come in and experience it for 5 or 10 minutes, and then, oh wow, you felt something triggered in you. Okay, I want to know more. Okay, well then, yes, you know, come and join us in another one of our live sessions. Come and join a masterclass, you know, and so on and so on. So you know, that just came to me. I think maybe we should do something about it.
Okay.
If you're up for it. Yeah, we'll do it together. I mean, you've got a good network. Put something out, like maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, you know, it's short. Come join us. This is the time we're doing it every day. We're doing a Zoom call. It's going to be a peace meditation for 10 minutes or 11 minutes. You know, what's a spiritual number? 11 minutes. 11 minutes a day. You know, at this time you can join. Make it a you know, time that's accessible for people. And if you can't join us in person, then you know, join us. Just do it wherever you can. And then we can record them and we can give people a download and say, okay, well, look, if you can't do it, then listen to one of the recordings, and create a movement out of it, because I think it's needed.
Okay.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, so anything on number 1?
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah, just feeling into it. I think, you know, more and more you see with his words, he's just pointing us into a feeling, isn't he? It's not about the mind anymore as much as, okay, can you just feel that presence and surrender to it? And that's what these lessons are designed to point us to.
It's nice it's linked with the heartbeat, because the heartbeat's like a vibration, isn't it? I know it's an energy vibration rather than a physical one, but it's like, you can imagine it, can't you? Beating out and then vibrating out, that vibration out.
With each heartbeat. So it's cleverly saying, okay, well, even though the body's an illusion, use it to expand and extend this feeling of love. And if you can imagine that, and you know, they've shown that people who do get into their heart and they're feeling, that does really, really good things for the body. It entrains the body into a higher frequency. It's very healing. It entrains the mind into a different way of thinking. And suddenly you become aligned with this presence of love, which originates in the heart chakra. It's sort of the center of it. And everything, because it's a field of energy. It's not the brain and all the, the mechanical processes going on. It's really your thinking. It's the field of energy that you now become aligned to, which is now actually thinking for you. That field of love is this presence. It's now coming and it's kind of doing you. It's using your body, and it's using everything about the seemingly separate person for its purposes. And you feel that, and you can see that. If someone isn't trained to the heart, they have a very different energy and a very different appearance, and their words and their behavior change. So just doing it using the Ukraine war to get people into that, apart from whatever happens with the war, it's good for them. It's going to be good for everyone who participates in it. So yeah, nice one.
Number 2. Let me listen to your answer and not my own. My source, my heart is beating in the peace of the heart of love extends. It is there and only there that I can be at home. Let me listen to your answer and not my own. That is classic, isn't it?
Because our minds think, oh no, this is the answer to your problems. Do this, and it's not the answer, because it keeps us in the problematic consciousness. And the only problem we have is separation from our source. So he's saying, well, forget all of that and just feel the answer, connect with it, feel it. Because therein lies all the answers. All the answers to everything lie in that field of presence.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? When you have a problem and you can't make a decision, you're in the energy of the problem. And you're not allowing yourself to move into that other energy vibration, where the answer lies.
Where the answer is, because that's true. That energy is what's true, it's what's real, and everything else is not. So by consciously going into it, you're saying, well, this truth is what I know to be true. It's what I believe. I'm not entertaining any other thoughts, and reality must change. The so-called dream world, which is just a product of thought, you fundamentally changed your thoughts and your energy. That must change the outcome of the dream, because it's all a product of thought. And if enough people do that, that can happen on a global level. There's no doubt that can happen on a global level. It's been shown in experiments like the peace experiment of Lynn McTaggart. There's that other experiment, the Washington DC one, you're probably familiar with, where they all meditated. It was like 4,000 meditators at a conference, and they meditated over 6 weeks in Washington DC in the summer, and the crime went down 25%. They couldn't explain. There was no obvious reason for it, other than that there was this meditation conference that hadn't been there in previous years. So it works on it's been tested on a fairly large scale, but like on a bigger scale, it must be hundreds of thousands or millions of people. That it really is absolutely world changing. So let's see what we can do. Use Facebook for good. Okay, well, join us for this. You're sick and tired of this, because everyone's getting sick and tired. It's like, okay, let's just resolve this. There's no reason why the conflict can't be resolved, but we're not going to resolve it on the level of the conflict. So sending more arms and weapons, and that's not how it's going to be solved.
I'm not tuned into the war side of it at all, but I have had a calling to do peace meditations, and I hadn't quite accomplished how to do that yet. I felt like it could be something like you've just said, where people don't have to actually log in even, but just know it's on at a certain time and tune into it. So I had been given that a while ago to do. But it's quite interesting you talking about the war, because I had somebody else here today that's written a book about violence. He's a TM teacher, and his antidote to violence book, I can't read it because he's got the word violence on the cover, and it's like, oh, I just don't do that vibration, I can't go there. But it's interesting you talking about the war. I suppose that's a way in from the ego point of view, isn't it?
Well, exactly. The call, if there's a problem, the problem becomes the starting point. Transformation. Without the problem, there would be no need to go and look for something else, look for a solution. Which is where Yeshua is addressing this. The entire Course in Miracles is he's saying, well, I'll meet you where you are in your problem. You think you have this problem. You think that the world is not a nice place. You think you're suffering. Whatever it is you're thinking that's not making you happy. There's your problem. I'll meet you in your problem, but I'm not going to leave you in your problem. So then shifts you into, okay, well, actually look at the problem differently. Oh, actually, maybe there isn't really a problem. Maybe the problem's in my mind. Okay, I can let go of the problem. And now the problem leads you to the solution. So as he says, the solution is inherent in the problem. And so that's the genius of the Holy Spirit, just using the problem to allow the solution to arise in your mind. And that's the divine purpose of the problem. The only purpose is to help you awaken. So the war in the Ukraine can be a major, any major egoic problem can be an equally significant solution that can take people into the answer, which is the true call. And I don't really pay much attention. I don't watch the news, and every now and then you hear a little bit, oh, it's still going on, and Russia's not doing so well now, and the Ukraine are doing better, and everyone's like, but again, that's just taking sides, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, now one over another. It's actually about healing the whole problem in the mind. The idea that there's a separate countries, separate people who have separate interests, who can go to war over territory and whatever their perceived interests are to get what they want. This is the problem. So use it, it's an example, a specific example of a major ego pattern, which then is you're inviting people to heal it in their own minds, in their own hearts. Heal your own war, heal your own conflict. So yeah, I think it could be amazing. And because it's a current issue, you'll get interest, you see. I think the problem with this is it's too metaphysical, esoteric. It's like, yes, I want inner peace, and okay, maybe all those things conceptually I can agree with, but there's no like, okay, well, actually there's a call to do this. There's a reason to do this overtly. It's just my inner call. So you got to maybe appeal to people on a different level, which is then just the way in. It's the way to start the conversation. Okay, well, that's the starting point. They can get access to it, and they can feel this power. They go, wow, that's pretty amazing. In 10 minutes, I really felt something. I'm interested. I want to know more. Okay, now then they're ready for the next step, you see. So you just need to get them to try it for even a few minutes, and that might be enough for them to say, okay, I'm actually interested in finding out more. And that could lead them into this. It could lead them into your program. So we can both benefit from it on that level as well. But it's really about another way to heal the mind.
Yeah, I did some work with Lynn McTaggart, and I love the idea of her Power of 8 groups, and I did that for a while. It was interesting. They weren't quite doing it on the level I wanted to do it, so I didn't do it that long. But yeah, I admire her for her work of getting together large numbers of people and focusing on a topic. Yeah, it's a good idea. She's the only one I know. So.
It's been done, so why not again? Why not for another issue? I don't know where she's at. I haven't heard anything from her for a long time, but I'm not on her mailing list. So it doesn't matter. The principles are there. The call is there. If you get I just got a little download there saying, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you gonna listen to it or not? And this is how spiritual marketing works. You get a download and it just tells you do that, doesn't it?
Yeah, you got the download. I'll sleep on it and just make sure that feels right for me.
Yeah.
You want to say hello?
Hi, Steve.
She just walked in.
Okay. Do you want to do a quick meditation, or do you want to?
No, I think I'll log off now.
Hmm.
I'll contemplate your idea, or
Hmm.
God's idea, or whoever's idea it downloaded it.
Yeah, do that.
All right.
Do that.
Will do.
Walk. Okay, thanks for joining. That was very nice.
Tomorrow I might be a little bit late on, but I think I should be able to get on.
Yeah. Okay.
That might be 1 o'clock-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right then. Thank you very much.
Okay.
See ya. Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, so I'm gonna call it there. We've done the lesson. So thank you for joining. If you've listened to this, and actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just read the clarification of terms quickly, so that that's done. So let's just so let's read the clarification of terms. On my screen again. So clarification of terms. This is section 1 of it, called mind spirit. So Yeshua is defining some of the terms used in the rest of the course for us. So he says the term mind is used to represent the activating agent of spirit, supplying its creative energy. Activating agent of spirit. That's very interesting. Supplying its creative energy. So it's how the spirit becomes kind of creative and manifest in this world. So the mind, and the term is capitalized, refers to God or Christ, i.e. the mind of God or the mind of Christ. So that refers to the higher mind that believes only in oneness. Spirit is the thought of God, which he created like himself. Unified spirit is God's one Son or Christ. As Christ is the thought of perfect love, pure formless awareness, perfect love, which it created like itself. And the unified spirit is love's extension, perfect love's one Son or extension. That extension is Christ. So in this world, because the mind is split, the sons of God or the extensions of perfect love appear to be separate, nor do their minds seem to be joined. In this illusory state, the concept of an individual mind seems to be meaningful. It's therefore described in the Course as if it has two parts, spirit and ego. Okay, so there's apparently two parts to this mind, and although that's an illusion, we seem to have individual minds, and the one part is correct. The one part is ego, which is the belief in separation. Spirit is the belief in oneness, part of your mind that believes and knows, in fact, that only oneness is true. So he says that spirit is the part that is still in contact with God, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love through the Holy Spirit. It abides in this part, but sees the other parts as well through the Holy Spirit, which is the remembrance of perfect love, which abides in this part, but sees the other parts as well. The term soul is not used except in direct biblical quotations because of its highly controversial nature. It would, however, be an equivalent of spirit, the understanding that being of God, it is eternal, was never born. So the term soul isn't used because it is misinterpreted. And spirit is your true mind, your true awareness that is beyond the small mind. There is no thought of separation in spirit. It's just one with its true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love. And so it's eternal. It was never born and it cannot die. That's what eternal means. The other part of the mind, small mind, is entirely illusory. It makes only illusions. Spirit retains the potential for creating, but its will, which is God's perfect love, seems to be imprisoned while the mind is not unified. Okay, so you have this other part of the mind going on, another awareness, other thoughts, emotions, sense perceptions. Creation, which is beingness, being just the spirit, continues unabated because that is the will of God. And that is the pure formless awareness of perfect love, is just to be aware of itself. This will, this awareness, is always unified and therefore has no meaning in this world. It has no opposite and no degrees. So mind can be right or wrong, depending on the voice to which it listens. Right-mindedness listens to the Holy Spirit, remembrance of perfect love, forgives the world, or lets go of its belief in the world, and through Christ's vision of the one self, sees the real world in its place. Real world is the world reinterpreted. This remembrance of love. This is the final vision, the last perception, condition in which God, pure formless awareness of perfect love, takes the final step himself or itself. Here, time and illusions end together. So this is right-mindedness. Listens only to love, and it takes you on a journey where you finally end all illusions and you restore your mind to God, which is pure formless awareness, perfect love. Wrong-mindedness listens to the ego and makes illusions, perceiving sin and justifying anger, seeing guilt, disease, and death as real. Both this world and the real world are illusions because right-mindedness merely overlooks or forgives what never happened. So the world, any world of form, is an illusion. So right-mindedness simply overlooks these illusions and says they've never happened. Therefore, it's not the one-mindedness of the Christ mind as well as one with God's. And forgiveness is still involved. So the Holy Spirit, forgiveness is still involved. There still seems to be something to forgive. In one-mindedness, there's only a single awareness, one awareness, and there's nothing else. So in this world, the only remaining freedom is the freedom of choice, always between two choices or two voices. Will is not involved in perception at any level. It's nothing to do with choice. It's interesting. Will is not involved in perception at any level. It's nothing to do with choice. So your true will, I think what he means there is awareness. True awareness is not involved in perception at any level. It's nothing to do with choice. So in other words, you can't solve, Einstein said, significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. So we cannot solve significant problems at the level of perception, which is where they were created. You can only solve them at the level of true will or true awareness, which has nothing to do with choice because it simply is. It's beyond choice. Consciousness. So he defines consciousness here as a receptive mechanism, receiving messages from above or below. So into our minds, we can receive either the true messages from the Holy Spirit, which is the remembrance of perfect love, or the ego, which is the belief in separation. Our mind can listen to either source. Consciousness has levels, and awareness can shift quite dramatically, but it cannot transcend the perceptual realm. So at its highest, it becomes aware of the real world and can be trained to do so increasingly. The very fact that it has levels and can be trained demonstrates that it cannot reach knowledge. Okay, so welcome to your, let's just see, that one. So we look at our diagram, descent into hell. Consciousness sits at the top of the tree there. So that is a direct result of the seeming separation. The split in the mind leads to the idea and belief in separation, which forms a consciousness, seemingly a separate mind, which then has all these other dreams of being an individual self and feeling guilty and sinful for parents' sin of destroying that oneness. So consciousness is the domain of the ego, as Yeshua says in another section. Consciousness is the domain of the ego, and because it has levels, awareness can shift quite dramatically between its levels. It cannot transcend the perceptual realm. So consciousness, by definition, is, because it's the source, the idea of separation is the source of the perceptual realm, time and space, can't transcend it. If you go beyond it, then you go into an awareness that's beyond any idea of separation, which is God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness. So it's pointing us here beyond consciousness, beyond level of mind, small mind, which is all in this, in the red arrows and the red boxes, saying that ultimately capital mind is this. When we're identified with this, then we have the Christ mind. We have only the identity of oneness, our true self in mind, and that connects us with the pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is the experience. God ultimately is an experience. So the words, the clarification term, just designed to reinforce the metaphysics and help us to understand what he's really teaching, that there is this one source of capital mind or spirit, and that does not reconcile with small mind in any way. That is, in fact, at odds. Small mind is a belief in separation that denies the higher mind, the big mind, and the spirit. That is really just another word for this pure, formless awareness, perfect love. So I hope that was helpful. That brings us to the end of this little teaching. I will send a translation of this, I think. I've done it. Send that down the line shortly so you can read the translation for yourself and translate words like God and Christ and Holy Spirit into our alternative language. So I hope that's helpful, and yeah, thank you for listening. Thanks for joining, Sally, and thanks for listening to the recording. And our next session is tomorrow at 12:30 UK time, which is 2:30 South African time. So join us then if you can. Namaste, which means the divine spirit in me, the higher mind in me, acknowledges and honors that same higher mind or spirit in you.